It's Beer O'Clock, and this is the Beer O'Clock Show, where every week we take a selected beer, or two, or five, and discuss their various merits. My name is Mark, your friendly beer noob, and joining me, flashing his pasty white thighs as he cans through the Beer O'Clock studios, it's Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hi, Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm looking forward to this evening.
Yeah, me too. Also joining us, a random bloke off Twitter who just happens to have a palate. Blessed by Solenus, the god of beer, is our old mate and your new buddy, Justin Mason. Hello, Justin.
Hi, guys.
How are you doing, mate?
I'm very well indeed, thank you. Both of you fine?
We're fine,
Yeah.
We're fine.
Good, thanks, mate.
It's good to finally have you on the show. We've been talking about you behind your back for ages, so it's about time we actually have you on the show so we can talk to your face.
Right in front of me back, really. Down my ears.
We have an extra special show, not just because Justin's with us, but we also have 5 beers to get through tonight, and it's basically the entirety of the Beavertown canned beer range, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Right, so what we're going to do is we're very thankfully get stuck into the first beer straight away, as we do all the other stuff. So the first beer we have up is the Beavertown Neck Oil Session IPA, which is a 4.3% ABV. And we're not drinking out of the cans, we're actually pouring them into glasses. There's a reason behind that, apparently.
There is. It will become apparent. When you pour them in, can you only pour round about 3/4 of the can in as well? That will become
dear
apparent.
me.
Only roughly.
Okay.
Just leave some.
I kind of know why we're doing this, but I won't ruin the surprise.
Well, it's a bit obvious, but there you go.
We were only going to do tasters of each can as well, Justin. We weren't going to neck the entirety of the 5 cans.
Well, I have to say, I went through the first 3 last night just to jot down a few notes just for myself, just to get myself familiar with it. And I drank the first 3 in roughly 25 minutes in their entirety with no problem at all.
Good man. Okay, so the first one we got up is the Neck Oil Session IPA. Can you tell us a little bit about this beer, either of you? I have to say the artwork on these cans is excellent. I love their style.
I'm going to jump straight in with the first plug for the to make people hang around to the end of the show as well, because we do have an interview with Logan at the end of the show tonight, and he does talk about the artwork on the cans as well and where the ideas came from. But this one, apparently, all the skulls are apparently representation of all of the brewing staff that have worked at Beavertown. So that's
Nice.
what all those little heads are. So
Right, so it smells like an IPA, I can say that much.
yeah, but it's lemony. I'm getting some real big lemony hits off of that.
Lemony pine, making my eyes water.
Yeah, I mean, if you think big lemon is the first hit, it's smasher. And there's grapefruit under there, and that citrus, that little bubbly citrus, is all lime zest. It really, that sort of lime zesty taste really enhances that citrus bite. Really gives it some oomph.
It's just got the aroma is just so inviting. It just, you get your nose to within an inch of it, and it just makes you want to drink it.
Yeah. Shall we?
Yeah, let's probably in the earliest time ever in Beer O'Clock Show history. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Oh, there's a lovely dryness to that comes through the minute it hits your tongue.
See, one thing I've found with these Beavertown cans is if they're too cold, I don't get all the flavour. So I took the precaution of taking mine out of the fridge around about half an hour before we started tonight, and I'm getting a lot. If you drink it, I mean, I tend to have my fridge probably too low, around about 4 degrees, and if I drink it at that temperature, I lose a lot of the flavour. But now, see, you get that grapefruit peel and lemon zest. You're right, Steve. It's big and bitter. The bitterness is very, very, very pronounced. It's quite sharp as well. There's that citrus sharpness that comes through. It's what it is. This beer is what it says. It's a neckle. You down it, but it is refreshing. And I know from experience drinking this, because what they've done with the balance here is incredibly clever. They've got it so it's bitter, and it works, and it's refreshing as well. But you immediately want another sip because it just dries out your mouth, and you just think the bitterness dries it out, and you just, I'll have another go at that. I'll pour it down again, and that's why I was quite. It disappears. For me, it just goes.
It does keep dragging you in, and for me, it's got a bitterness of an IPA that's well above 4.3%. It's really, really clever brewing here in terms of the way this has turned out.
I'm getting real lemon from this. It's really puckering for me.
Yeah,
it's nice though. It's that bitterness off the hops, but it's really light at the same time. You're not getting. You know how some strong IPAs have that kind of heavier malty feel to it.
So you get that caramel undertone, but it's not. It's not here.
No,
it's not here with this beer at all. It's purely about the bitterness up front, and it is. You're very right. It is quite light. The carbonation, while it's there, is only a light prickle because of the bitterness. It really drags you in, makes you want to drink more. It's very, very. It's just a delicious beer.
It's like a mouthful of bitter sunshine.
Yes.
Lemon zesty, lime zesty sunshine.
Now, Justin, last week we did the Montezuma's chocolate lager, and I believe you've had it this week.
I have, yes. I drank it last night.
What did you think?
Watching the World Cup final. Well, it's an interesting beer. It's quite unlike anything that I've drunk before. No, that's not true. It's unlike any beer I've drunk before.
Right.
My initial impression, and still is, and I did check this, and I passed it to my wife and said, "What do you think?" I'm getting cream soda, and her immediate reaction was, "Yeah, you're absolutely right." Imagine I just imagine a cream soda with a chocolate ice cream float, only a little bit of chocolate ice cream that had dissolved into a cream soda. And if you can imagine that, that's what I got. That's the beer throughout. It was quite interesting listening to the conversation you had with the brewer and about the distillate. I would like to find out actually more about that process, how he did that, because obviously, as he said, you can't mix fat and lager. It just doesn't. The two don't come together.
Yeah.
But I think if you haven't got a sweet tooth, you're not going to like it. And it is incredibly sweet.
It's quite interesting that you said it. You got the aroma of cream soda with the chocolate float in it, because I told Steve this after we stopped recording. The aroma that I got off it was the smell of pipe tobacco when someone's smoking a pipe.
Oh, that's interesting.
Especially from the bottle, I was getting, you know how pipe tobacco, you can get that real sweetness with a bitterness to it, and the smokiness as well, obviously. So it's kind of like bordering on that pleasant, unpleasant for me, because I don't mind the smell of pipe tobacco, but it can be a bit disgusting. And that sums up Montezuma's chocolate lager for me.
Yeah, I think you I didn't get the pipe tobacco. But I did get something when I undid the bottle. It traipsed down to Billericay and back home to my house on Saturday. The cap, when I took the cap off, I smelt the bottle and the cap was incredibly chocolatey. It was very, very pronounced chocolate flavour, or chocolate aroma rather, and that aroma was nowhere else. Everything else was too perfumed and too full on. It was quite clean. The only nod to a lager that I could see there was how clean tasting it was. I think if you gave it to somebody and said, "This is a cream soda float," if you gave it to someone in a mug where they couldn't see the colour, they wouldn't know that that's not what they were tasting. And I don't think that's the point. I can't really see why you would do that. Is the shock the colour? I'm prepared to be contradicted on that, but is the shock the colour? I mean, as a chocolate lager, you've got nothing to compare it to. So, yeah, it works as a chocolate lager because that's what it is. But with no comparison and no one else doing anything else, it's the first. Why not?
Yeah, interesting. Cool. Okay. Steve, I believe you went for a little beery adventure on the weekend. I think Justin may have joined you. Is that right?
I did, yeah. Both Justin and I went down to the Owls by Mail are bringing in some new US imports in September, and they put an invite out for people just to go along and just taste the beers and to give them a go. And they pretty much had a fridge full of beer where they said, knock yourselves out. So
Wow.
for about an hour, it was kind of like kids in a candy shop. It was let's literally have a go at this fridge. I did do a bit of a write up on it, which is up on the website if people want to have a look at it. Goes through some of the beers that we tried and also what the plans are for those beers as well. But keep your eyes on the Owls by Mail website or the Twitter feed for when those beers are going to be arriving in the UK.
Okay, cool.
I will say that I arrived a little bit late. I didn't get there till I was working earlier, and I didn't get there till around about 2:20. Now, I think Steve might have had a slight influence on what's being pulled out, because there appeared to be IPA after IPA after IPA on the countertop with no variation.
You give me a fridge full of IPAs. What do you think I'm going to do?
Yes, so we mixed it up a little bit and pulled out some rather remarkable beers, it has to be said. One of which was an IPA, double IPA, that was absolutely astonishing.
Oh, that was amazing, that one. I mean, some of them, as you say, Justin, were absolutely stunning. And I think I would encourage people just to have a look at the write-up on the website and have a look at the beers that I thought were really good. Because the general consensus was on the ones that I thought were really good were the ones that were really good. So have a look at those, and certainly keep your eye out for those when they hit the shores in September.
Cool, will do. Should we move on to the next beer, chaps?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Have you finished? Don't forget you have to save some, Steve.
No, that's the rest of the neck oil that I just poured. But I'm happy to move on to the next one.
You've got your water there to help you.
Shh.
Have you not got water with you, Mark?
No.
Oh, mate, come on.
I do it hardcore, man.
Yeah.
They don't go for the Michael Jackson the beer right away. I don't know if you've seen any episodes of The Beer Hunter, and there's one particular one where he's in Belgium tasting beers, and in order to differentiate, cleans his palate between the beers. They don't have water; they have just standard white bread, which I think is quite an interesting thing, to just have some white bread between each beer, because it's so bland. It just takes everything away from your tongue. I've gone with water today, but yeah, it was something. It's just something that you may want to consider should you be out and there is no water. Get a bog stand loaf of white bread to cleanse your palate.
Put a loaf of bread on the bar and say, "Give me a line. Give me a flight."
Yeah, well, it soaks up the alcohol as well, so I suppose it has a dual purpose.
Right, the next beer is an American IPA called Gamma Ray, which I think I may have had before. It's a 5.4% ABV. As the name was suggest, the can is decorated with an illustration of skeletal aliens fighting on an alien world. Very interesting.
Yes. Again, in some insights into that in the interview at the end of the show.
I think I had this at the... Did I have this? I'm sure I had this somewhere. Never mind.
You must have had this before.
I honestly can't remember. Anyway, what can you tell me about this beer that I should be expecting when I or should I just dive into it?
You can contrast the colour on this beer with the previous beer, and if you can see from the glass, if you look how light and bright it. And you say we picked up lemon. If you look at the neck, it looks that lemon yellow. Now this is much more sunset orange as opposed to the lemon yellow you got with the neck oil.
So I'm more of those piney characteristics and a little bit of the sweetness, the caramel coming through on the nose.
I'm quite fortunate where I'm sitting in the conservatory, completely natural light, so I'm all round. So it's.
Can we stop looking at it and sniffing it and just drink it, please?
Before you actually dive in, if you just tilt the glass and slowly rotate it, don't swirl it. Swirl it, you'll disrupt the carbonation. So if you tip it to as much as you dare to the rim and slowly swirl it, so you get a good coating.
And don't pour
on
it.
Glass. Don't try and pour it on your computer.
I almost did.
And then stick your nose back in, because you've got that bigger surface area coated around the outside of the glass.
Yeah.
You've got much more of that aroma hitting you in the face.
Justin, you're so clever.
I think it. I don't know if I've done it wrong, but it seems to have calmed my aroma down.
Did you
at the same time as made it more pronounced?
You were swirling the glass prior.
I wasn't swirling it. Oh yeah, prior.
Prior to doing that. So what you've done is disrupted. You don't. What you want to do is avoid losing that carbonation, because that's where all the volatiles are thrown up into your nose.
Yeah, okay. What I want to do is drink it, mate. Sorry.
Go on then.
Just
drink it.
All right.
Cheers. Again.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Oh,
Okay.
no, that's lovely.
For me, when I smell it, I get like whole orange. You know, if you squeeze oranges and you get the pith and everything, and you get your hands covered in a sticky, gooey mess, and it's all orangey and delicious with sort of lemon and it's just an absolutely delicious. And there's that pine undertone, and also I don't know what it is for this beer, but I always pick up with it a little like salinity. So there's a little saltiness, but only on the aroma do I get that. Right at the back. I rather like it.
I just think it's incredibly well balanced. You get all the flavours coming through. You get the aroma coming through as you're drinking it. You get this really soft bitterness in comparison to the neck oil, where the neck oil is a really sharp bitterness, a really dry bitterness that makes you want to go back in for more. This one, that bitterness is much softer, and it actually, as much as you want to guzzle it because it's just so damn tasty, it does make you just slow down a little bit and want to enjoy it and savour it.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right there. It's got that the orange and the lemon flavours you're getting through with that are incredibly smooth. There is a bitterness at the back, and it borders on sort of almost guava. I don't know if you've had any guava beer or beer with guava flavours in it, but it brings out a little bit of the bitterness, but it's a tempered bitterness. It's smoother. It's less, like you say, it's less sharp than the neck oil, and it just slips down beautifully. Absolutely beautifully.
Yeah, I'm like Steve. I'm finding it much less bitter than the neck oil, but it's heftier though. There's more body to it.
Yeah. Right, so midway through the second beer then, should we do a little bit of news now?
Yeah. Beep 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 beep.
Oh, okay.
There's your pips.
That's brilliant. Beard up news. Okay. A few bits of news this week then. First, big breaking news story at the weekend. Mark, it's you. You've got a new Twitter profile.
I do.
Tell us all about it.
I finally made the news.
Yeah, you've on your own podcast.
Yeah. So my old account still exists, which is at Roku, But I decided to do a strictly beer-related one, so I could consolidate all of my beery followers and all the followees and all that kind of thing. So that's at Roku, ROKKU Beer, BEER, in case there's any confusion. All one word. And it's really good. Like within 24 hours, I had 60 followers because everyone there's a massive pile on with Twitter. It was really fun seeing everyone jump in and go, "What happened? Why did you change?" So it was good.
Well, I was actually stood next to Justin at the time where it popped up on my phone, and I said to him, I showed it to him, and I was like, "What the fuck is that?"
Yeah. But I had a few people.
Beer guzzling Pooh Bear appeared.
Yeah.
I even had Melissa Cole saying, "Oh, I preferred it when Pooh was dancing." So, well, that's on my old account. Now it's just Pooh getting pissed. So.
Brilliant. Sounds like any other Monday night then. Okay then, moving on. Next story, and it's a return of our regular Brewdog feature. This week they opened up their new Dog Tap, which is basically it's their brewery's on-site tap room at the headquarters in Ellen in Scotland. It comes as a result of the expansion of its HQ and offices, also sees the creation of a visitor centre and a pilot system for recipe development and interactive brewing. It'll have 10 Brewdog beers on tap, yada, 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 Brewdog. That's up at their visitor centre in Scotland somewhere.
Visitor centre, they are so punk rock. It's unbelievable.
Then next story, a new brewery, Seven Brothers, due to launch in August, based in Manchester. Strangely enough, they're 7 brothers from various professional backgrounds, all have a passion for beer, that have been brewing together for years and have finally decided to take it to the next phase. So keep an eye out for this brewery when they launch in August, initially producing a session IPA, a watermelon wheat beer and a porter stout. For more information, you can follow them on Twitter at 7 Brothers, but that's not spelled as you would expect. So it's 7, SEVEN, then Brothers, BRO, then the number 7, HERS. We'll put a link to that in the show notes so people can just link straight to it. And then the final piece of news, just to say that we mentioned this last week, London Beer City, since last week now has a full schedule up on their website, londonbeercity.com. And what a schedule of events it is they've got planned for that week. Literally, there's at least 5 events per day during the week in August. But we're hoping to have an interview with Will Hawkes in a few weeks on the show to talk all about London Beer City. But for the time being, just visit londonbeercity.com and have a look at the schedule. And there's the end of the news.
Very good, very good. Right, we're on to the next beer now. We've got 3 more to get through, including this one. This is interesting. It is the Beavertown 8-Ball Rye IPA. A 6. You're slowly killing me with these ABVs. 6.2% ABV. And the can looks like an alien apocalypse or something. With an 8-ball setting fire to the entire race.
I particularly like the image of on the can of the astronaut trying to drink through his visor and cracking it in the boot.
Right, so let's crack this one open and see what it's like.
There's so much going on with the artwork on these cans, though, isn't there? Yeah. I mean, there's a lot that's gone into these images all the way round. I just think they're really attractive.
Okay, so this is a darker colour. This one.
Yeah, it's a very dark. It's dark amber. I had this last night and said to my 10-year-old daughter, "What do you reckon this is?" And she went dark amber, and I think she's pretty much spot on with that description.
Have you got an entire family of beer experts or something?
They're not bullying, but they're so used to me asking their opinion and engaging with me that, yeah, no, generally yes.
Yes.
They'll quite happily come over very close to me. I cannot tell a lie.
I think I've had a rye beer before, but tell me what a rye IPA actually is. I know what an IPA is, but where does the rye come into it? Is that a type of wheat, or educate
Because
me?
it's a grain,
Right.
so it's got a proportion of rye in with the
Okay.
malt.
Got you. Okay.
And what difference does that bring to it, Justin, as
Um,
opposed to a standard IPA?
it brings obviously you get the effect from the rye, so you do get some taste from the rye itself, much as you would if you introduced a rye beer. It also a rye bread with rye in it, so you get bitterness. You get more of a mouthfeel. It helps marginally with the head, I believe, and it affects the colour. And there's I'm not sure. I think it does pay off somewhere in the aroma as well, but it gives you that rye constituent. So it's just an extra element that you can use to make it slightly different, just to enhance the beer. Now, as 8 Ball, do you have references to 8 Ball with Logan? Does he talk about this beer as well? How it got its name?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't mention the naming of the beers.
I was reading through now with my Beers of London series before I started that. 8 Ball was actually the first Beavertown beer that I reviewed on my blog, and apparently the story is the reason it's called 8 Ball is because they put 8 balls in the mash to weigh down the sack with the hops in.
Oh, okay.
So it weighed down to stop it floating to the surface. They put an 8 ball in the bag, muslin bag, chucked it into the brew, and it kept it on the bottom nearer the boil. Whether that's an apocryphal story, I don't know. But looking back at the time, I think that's September, October 2012 on my blog. So this beer's been around a while. That's 18 months, nearly 2 years ago.
Right, shall we get into it?
Yeah, let's give it a go, because I've got to say, I'm struggling with the aroma on this one. I can't pull anything out of it.
No, nor can I.
See, I get orange, a little bit of orange zest. There's pear juice, sugared almonds, a little bit of apricot as well. Apricot at the back. It's
Palate blessed by the kings. I've told you that.
Yeah.
Do you know that if you open a bag of sugar almonds, or if you not actually have sugared almonds, but the way they smell, they smell dark and sticky.
Yeah, I've just done the beer rolling thing you told us to do with the last one, and I'm getting like a candied nut smell of it now. Oh, that's really interesting. It's kind of like a dark sweetness in there.
Yeah, it's
Right, let's give it a taste.
sticky fruitiness.
All right,
Yeah.
let's go.
Cheers. All right.
Do you feel that different mouthfeel?
Mm.
It's almost like it tastes like a dirty beer, if you see what I mean. Which quite often is something that's an analogy that you
Dirty
get
beer.
from a rye beer.
Yeah.
It's good, but it tastes like it shouldn't. It's almost because it's not smooth. It's like a little bit grainy, only very slightly.
It certainly had that, and I don't know whether it was because it was the last word that somebody said, but it's got a sticky feel to it. So
Yeah.
it's certainly not as smooth as either of the previous two beers. It hasn't got the smoothness that you'd expect from your standard IPA. It's letting you know it's there as you're drinking it.
Yeah, there's that apricots and that sticky fruitiness, little pineapple, lime, and I get a little bit of like cakey walnut cake. Now, I recently had walnut cake, and it had a caramel layer. So whether or not I'm relating that to something I've eaten within the last week or so, excuse me, there is something called palate drift that I don't know if you've heard of, where psychologically your taste searches for something to, and if you're looking to relate it to something that you've eaten recently, so a taste and elements of a taste you've come across will slot into something that you've eaten recently, and you'll find that in the beer. And that's what I think that's what I'm getting here. But I have got cakiness before, but I'm relating it very much to something that I've eaten recently.
I think now would be a good time to start questioning you about this palate blessed by the gods that you have. You've kind of given us a seamless link into it there. Some of the flavours that you describe, I mean, you know, we've both been out for a beer with you. I've been out for many beers with you. Read your blogs, listen to you talking about beer. Some of the flavours that you describe, some of the stuff I've never even heard of. So I'm just really intrigued to know how you got to where you are, so that you can taste all these wonderful flavours within beers. Because I think personally, I've got a range of about 10 flavours that I generally pick up from a beer. I guess Mark has probably got a slightly smaller range.
I've got about 3.
Than that. Yeah.
Pineapple and Bourneville biscuits.
Tastes like beer.
And beer.
So Justin, tell us, just tell us how your palate has got to where it is, how it's evolved from kind of, I suppose, where we are to where you are now.
I've always been adventurous, food-wise. When I was growing up, there was nothing well, that's not strictly true. There were 3 flavours that I didn't like. They're not common flavours. One was parsley, one was horseradish, and one was aniseed. But apart from that, there hasn't been a flavour that I have ever been particularly opposed to. Basically, I could be given anything and I would eat it. And if it tasted good, I'd ask for more. As I grew up, if we'd go out to eat, I'd choose something on the menu that I hadn't had before, just to find out what it tasted like. It's quite adventurous that way. And if I didn't know what was in something, I'd ask and say, "Can you tell me what's in this?" Now, in quite a lot of instances, trying to find the person who knows what's in it is quite hard because they're not put the meal together. So you find places where they do. Now, I was quite fortunate that when I was growing up, I was taken on European holidays, France and Germany. So I had lots of exposure to fresh produce, lots of seafood, lots of meat, Germany, different types of bread, and we were camping, so everything we would get was fresh. We'd get fresh fish, fresh fruit from the market, so you'd go out every day, and it'd be part of the holiday. We'd be doing that. And if there was something on a stall that I didn't know, I would speak. I then had I was fortunate enough to have quite a good grasp of French, and I was able to converse quite fluently. And I would ask about produce where it came from, and quite often it was local, which was handy. And so you could talk to the producers, what it is, how you cooked it, what it went best with. And I was very fortunate to taste a lot of things. Now, the 3 things that I mentioned earlier, parsley, and horseradish, and aniseed, are 3 flavours now that I can now tolerate. I wouldn't say I love them, but I've learned to adapt to tasting them, which is something very like you do with bitterness, because you see other people, and certainly with beer. I was fortunate enough to go on something recently where I got the chance to brew with Pilsner Urquell, and in a competition, and one of the speakers there said it takes at least 6 goes to get yourself acquainted with the bitterness of beer, because the bitterness initially is you reject it. But the reason you keep drinking it and your palate adapts to it is because of the social situation, and you see other people around you drinking the beer and enjoying it and having a good time. And you think, I want some of that, so I'm going to keep drinking it, and your palate gets used to it. This chap was a flavour psychologist. He was very, very interesting. I was quite dismissive of the notion flavour psychologist at first. However, what he had to say was actually incredibly interesting. And you think, if you it takes you six times. Now, I've listened to your older episodes, and you say you've only got 3 flavours, 10 flavours. It's not true, because the stuff you pull up, I've seen your palates evolve over time. If you listen to your back episodes, the flavours that you're pulling out now, you weren't. It was, well, I like this one, or I don't like this one, or it's quite fizzy, it's quite beery.
It tastes like beer.
That was me.
Yeah, but you don't say that now. Only in jest do you say it now. And it's different. So it is something that if you work at it, you can get there, and you don't have to try too hard.
No.
There are things that you can do that get quite intense. Recognising off flavours is something you can buy. Kits where you dilute off flavours into a standard beer, so you can learn off flavours. So to come in to recognise off flavours in beer, that's quite an advanced level. But just eat a range of fruit and vegetables. If you think about the flavours we've been pulling out, so get to know oranges, different types of orange. Don't just buy your standard orange. If you see supermarkets these days, we're so lucky that they have a range of oranges, a range of fruit and vegetables. Different supermarkets will stock different varieties. And if you look at, if you just look at oranges, you've got orange, blood orange, tangerine, satsuma. They've all got different elements and different aspects of the same thing, and they all have their own nuances. The peel smells different. When you rip into it, it tastes different. The initial sensation's different. The juiciness is different. All these things, it's sweeter, more sour, more sharp. Just try them, and you will get to know what they're like. I think I've gabbled on long enough now.
So I think the message there is, there you go, kids. Eat your 5 a day, because it will help you later on in life tasting the flavours in wonderful beer. That was just listening to you there, Justin. It's just fascinating, because I will openly admit that I'm an incredibly fussy eater, and the thought of trying things just to get my palate to improve absolutely terrifies the life out of me. But I think as a starting point, I think even I could cope with eating more fruit, just to try and get a greater range of fruit flavours on my palate.
I mean, the key is as well to experience the fruit. Fruit juice doesn't wash. You have to tear the fruit, feel the peel, taste the juice, experience what it feels like on your tongue. Smell the skins. Smell the skin. Smell your hands after ripping into an orange. You get that zestiness. It's nice to smell, but it repulses you a little bit because it's so intense.
Yeah.
Those flavours you can't get from opening a bottle of orange juice or a carton of 5 Alive or whatever. Yeah. It's just not there. You have to experience it. And once you do, you find that they're all in beer. There's the zestiness, the pith, the sensation, the juiciness, it's all there. It's all mashed up. It's all in the hop oils, and the brewers, I think you're doing more of a credit to the brewer by experiencing that, because you're getting more of a taste for you, and the brewers tried hard to get these things in the beer. If you're saying it tastes a bit, you've really done them a disservice, because they've tried hard getting this, giving you an experience in that glass. And to say, which is why, again, I wanted to put it in glassware tonight, part of what they've done is the colour and the aroma. If we were drinking these out of the can, we're losing that. Yes, cans are convenient, and there's a place for them. They're very portable. They're light. You fit them in your backpack, and you can guzzle them down and still get a taste. But part of what you look, I mean, I've got these three in front of me, and they're entirely different colours. And if you go across the top, the aromas are different as well.
Yeah.
And they've worked hard to do that. So it's give something back. Do the beers justice.
Well said, well said. Right, let's move on to the next one then. Beavertown Smog Rocket, which is a smoked porter, and this one, 5.4% ABV. Is that lighter than the 8-ball? Oh, it is.
It is.
We've dipped down a little bit. That's nice. Nice little siesta from the ABV.
Yeah.
This can's
This is our
artwork.
Dip back down.
This is our porter break for the evening.
This can's artwork is a nice and cheery plane crash into a pyramid or something with blimps in the air.
No, it isn't. It's a look back to the World Wars, World War Two,
Yeah.
and the air raids.
And there's a
over
pyramid in the
London.
background with a bee on top.
There's always a pyramid in it because that's the Beavertown logo.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, just have a look at all of the cans,
Oh, yeah,
mate,
look
just
at
for
that.
a second.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
there you go. Look at that.
Oh, they're clever, they are.
Yeah.
Right. That
So-
smells like a porter as well.
Yeah,
You get that
apparently,
smokiness.
I learnt at the weekend that apparently a porter's a good thing in between all of the hops and the IPAs.
Oh, yeah.
To cleanse the palate a little bit. I learnt that off of this random bloke himself. that
Nothing like a
sat with
pint
us
of
tonight.
porter as a palate cleanser.
Yes.
A
Much-
pint
much
may
to
be
the-
excessive. However, but if you're out for a flight of beers, as you know, if you're drinking IPAs, you won't experience, because if you, the stronger you crave that hoppiness, that lupulin hit more and more, and it puckering in your mouth. You need something just to wash your palate away. Just get rid of that and start afresh. As opposed to the hoppiness of an IPA or a double IPA, the porter gives you maltiness. Maltiness is the thing here, and it's sort of a contrast. So it's compare and contrast. It contrasts and it washes through. I don't know if you've ever done a flight of IPAs on your show, but an IPA, drinking IPAs all night, with the exception of probably Steve, is quite a difficult thing to do, because you probably won't get the full experience. You won't get the full experience because they just wreck your palate. Putting some malt across your palate washes it clean, much in the same way that Weiss beer might, a sour, particularly a Berliner Weiss, of which we had an exceptional example at the weekend, just cleanses that all away. Sorbet, water, white bread, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you want to carry on drinking, the porter is as good a way to do that as any.
Yeah, when Steve and I went to the Magic Rock Takeover at Shepherd's Bush Brewdog, and we were hammering all different types of beers. Well, I say hammering, I think I had about 6. But I had quite a strong porter in amongst all that, and that was quite refreshing at the end of it. It's kind of reinvigorated my taste buds a little bit.
Yeah, as much as I hate to admit it, he was right as well at the weekend, because yes, as Justin pointed out at the beginning, by the time he got there, all that was on show was the various bottles of IPA that I had decided I wanted to try. And he did say, "Oh, you need to have something just to wash all that away," and it did work. However, I will probably say that if you're on an IPA mission, you do get to a point where actually you don't care what it tastes like anymore. because you're just craving that hop hit over and over again.
They're right, but the film of your life, Steve. Steve, the film of your life will be called The Cannonball Run. I'm afraid. Where it is, I will go there and drink it.
Yeah. There's an amateur filmmaker out there somewhere just waiting to make that film.
Yes.
Get in touch at Beer O'Clock Show. I'm available for a reasonable fee.
Justin,
perhaps you could put it on your ITV4 short films you want to do, Mark. I don't know.
Yeah.
My Dave Plus One TV show. Yep.
Yes, is it? Saying you're so well, you've dropped back again.
Yeah.
You've got to set your sights high.
So we've got this. What's it called again? I'll put the can away.
Smog Rocket.
The Smog Rocket smoked porter into glass. It is, as you would expect, black as the ace of spades. Lovely looking glass of porter.
It's
Real
just an amazing aroma as well. The aroma is, you properly get that smokiness of it.
I'm getting like,
and it just it reminds me of times in the past where I've been to like a Reading festival and I've sat around a bonfire all night. I've sat around a campfire all night, and I've got up the next morning and you just stink of campfire smoke.
yeah.
But it's a lovely smell, and it's got that lovely smoked aroma to it. There's almost, now I know, and you can listen to this at the end as well, that this was one of the original beers that they brewed specifically to pair with their beef ribs that they serve at Duke's, and you can just picture the smell of that going with beef ribs.
If you dig further into the smell, there's that caramelisation that you get on the outside of a beef joint. If you take that beef joint from the oven, you get that because obviously you get the proteins and the sugars coming through, and it caramelizes, which gives you that brown on the outside, and that's in there too.
Yeah, I'm getting like.
There's a little bit of irony in there. It's just.
I took my first sniff, and the first thing I thought of was charcoaly, burnt bacon, pork type smell. And
if you've got,
I started drooling.
The burnt, the caramelisation of the fat, the sugars in the fat.
Oh my god, this is nice.
This is an absolute stunner. This is the first time I've had Smog Rocket, and it has absolutely knocked my socks off after everything that's gone before it tonight. This has just come along. It's washed all of that away, and it is the perfect balance of aroma and flavour. I'm lost for words almost.
When you've got not only have you got the smokiness in there, there's chocolate. You've got that almost meatiness. It's just all wrapped up in one gorgeous bundle. I'm just going to dive in again, see what else I can pull out.
Yeah, I'm going to have to actually drain this can, I think, because this one is just too good to leave any in the glass.
Well, there's really good sweetness in there again. There's more of that dark stickiness that was in the rye in there as well. A little bit of nuttiness rolls across. I would say it was more walnut and chopped walnut than anything. But yeah, you're right, Mark. There is a little bit of bacon in there, a little bit of bacon fat in there.
It's bloody gorgeous, this beer. My God. It is like sticking an entire barbecue restaurant in your mouth or something.
Yes, that, absolutely. It is. It's like a barbecue restaurant in a glass.
Yeah. I can just imagine this with a rack of ribs.
I know neither of you have been to Duke's. So, Steve, you have been to Duke's, but I know you haven't had, because I was there with you, but I know you didn't have the...
I sat next to you.
You saw the ribs that came along on the other table. We had the sliders, but if you saw the ribs there, I mean, I was fortunate enough to be invited to the launch of Geronimo, the barrel-aged, porter-aged on staves of Jameson Scott Irish whiskey. And we had the beef ribs there, and this is that in a glass. It's just it is absolutely the perfect match for them. Absolutely.
I can see that. I can really see that from the flavour, from the aroma. It's just like this is a perfect example of a porter. I think the fact that they've put it in a can, and so you're getting it pretty much as fresh as it comes from the brewery. It comes out absolutely fantastically, and towards the end, as it's beginning to warm, you are getting sweet aromas as well, and you're getting sweetness coming through on the flavour. There's more of that brown sugar. There's some molasses in there as well, and I think it's just it's absolutely perfect.
It starts off smoky and meaty. It becomes sweeter and luscious and sticky, and exactly what you get from ribs. And it finishes. It doesn't finish dry. It finishes sweet, almost like you've worked your way through and you've got to the bone, you've licked your lips, and there's that little touch of barbecue sauce on your lips, and it's there where it's come in. I must admit, this is the first time I've had this out of the can, and out of the bottle, it's not as alive as this. This is a very alive beer. It's a little stickier. It's a little flatter. Would I say it's not a flat beer, but it's a little flatter. But this is alive with those flavours, and I think this is a perfect example, certainly out of the four so far, what something a can brings an extra element. It gives it that vibrancy. It really makes this beer, and it's a while since I've had it, and it's bringing all that back, those memories back, and it's absolutely delicious.
Absolutely spot on. Yeah. Really, really enjoyed that one.
It's amazing.
So while we're just talking about enjoying beers, and as we're between beers again, I'd just like to mention again, in a few weeks' time we've got the lock-in coming up, Saturday the 6th of September, where for the first time in the Beer O'Clock Show history we're going to go live, and we're going to go live on YouTube, where a group of us are just going to drink beer for the evening, and there'll be a group review in there of Thornbridge Kipling, and we're very grateful to Thornbridge for supplying the beers to us for the lock-in.
Indeedy.
Right, shall we drink another beer then?
Hang on, I'm just going to finish the last mouthful of this.
I've got the tiniest little bit left. It almost seems a shame to leave it.
Well, I promised my wife my dregs, so if I don't give her at least a little bit of each, but I will certainly be buying more of this.
Oh, the Smog Rocket is an absolute winner.
Yeah.
In a can. That is spot on.
So far, out of the four we've had, that's the winner for me. But let's move on to... Sorry, Justin.
This, which is interesting, you might say, because Black Betty is my favourite Beavertown beer.
Oh, really? And that's the next one
Yes.
we've got, which is the Black Betty Black IPA. And this is a 7.4% ABV on a school night. What we've got here is a bunch of gothic skeletons having a chit-chat.
Whoa! And you open it and you just get an immediate hit of hops.
Wow.
It's like that's a can of hops just been waited to have been released into the wild. Oh, I've gone a bit nuts with that pouring it.
Yeah, same.
But you've got that dark caramel sugar in
Mine's
this
a bit
as well.
head heavy.
I think that's par for the course. Let it settle down a bit. Well, as I can say, but if you want, just spin it round in the glass. And just
Aroma
slowly
is
rotate
just
it.
amazing.
Wow.
I mean, it's big with grapefruit, but it's it's almost caramelised grapefruit peel. There's hints of, and I won't say, yeah, I will say there's chamomile, but only fleetingly. Big caramel flavour. A little bit of. Have you had a barbecue where caramelised pineapple? If you put pineapple on a barbecue, you get that caramelisation, that lovely caramelisation, sticky, gooey round the edge. Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Aussies are very
That's
big
in
on
there as
having
well.
pineapple in their hamburgers. So you often get that really meatied up pineapple.
Mm.
That kind of barbecued, grilled pineapple. I can see where you're going with that.
There's herbal notes in there as well. Maybe some sage. If you have it, the fried sage. You know, if you flash fry sage, it gives you that little crisp herbal hit. Perhaps not. You're shaking your head. Yeah.
Can't say I've ever eaten sage. Not even normally, let alone flash fried.
For
That's in there.
if you have some leftover sage, just pan fry it just a little bit.
But it gives you that sort of. It just, because it works so well with meat. It's definitely there. Yeah, and it's in amongst the pineapple and the grapefruit peel and the caramel, and it just lifts it perfect.
I'm getting an ever such a slight hint, maybe a little shadow of a little smokiness in there that's almost a nod to the smog rocket, but then that's being washed away with. I'm getting big fresh flavours, a lot of pine, the caramel, maybe a little bit of
should we just get into this?
Bit of cut grass, yeah. I'm fed up with missing it because it just smells too good. For the probably for the last.
But it's one of
time
those
this season.
beers that actually you could spend a whole evening, and this canned version is particularly intense.
Ooh.
You'd be quite happy just smelling it.
Wow.
Oh wow!
Good.
Right, so I'm going to come straight in with a challenge for Mark here, because Mark's not a big fan of black IPAs. What do you think of that?
It's like a punch in the mouth, that is. I don't know.
As the style, you've never really taken to the black IPA, have you, mate? And I'm just wondering what you think of what you think of this one.
It's not.
Can I ask you why that is, Mark? Why haven't you? What it is about black IPAs?
I think because when we first started, I wasn't really. Because for people who don't know, the show's only been going a couple of years, and I was very new to ales. I was basically a virgin ale drinker when we started, and I was never into like the dark malted beers, the ones that you could get the really malty profiles from. And I also wasn't a big fan of the overly hopped beers, like the IPAs. Although I was learning. So combine the two, and you've got a recipe for disaster as far as my palate was concerned. But
Or a match made in heaven, because you've got like a car crash of a beer that's probably two negatives making a positive. I'm guessing.
not quite.
By the look on your face, that I can see, perhaps not.
But I've gotten used to them. I've come to appreciate them because we did that Thornbridge. What's the Thornbridge one? Raven. Black IPA.
Yeah, when we did it, it was just called Raven. It's now called Wild Raven.
Oh, is it? Okay.
But that was in our very first season.
Yeah, so I had that. We had much of a season where I'd been challenged by, malty beers as I went along in IPAs, and we had this Raven, and that was really nice. I actually quite enjoyed that one. And since then I've dabbled in darker beers as we go along. This one,
That is more towards the coffee side of the maltiness, which is no bad thing. I quite like that area as well.
I prefer my sweeter my sweeter flavors. If you think my favorite beer in the first season was Badger's Golden Glory, and I once said that to a barman at a certain pub called the Holborn Whippet, and I was asking him for recommendations. He's asking me what my favorite beer was, and I said that, and he looked at me like I was scum. Because it's not exactly the coolest beer in the craft wanker circles. But I've become.
It's not. But that should at least give him a point of reference. If he's a barman worth his salts, he should be able to work from that.
Yeah.
And say, right, okay, you like sweet flavors, you like the fruity flavors. What have we got on offer that will give you that?
Yeah. But
or work towards something like that. I mean, quite often in the Whippet they have fruity lagers, and fruity beers. So why not go for that? Do you drink in? Have you ever been to the St James's Tavern opposite the Houses of Parliament?
No, I have not.
Because that's a Badger pub, and that's worth going because the Badger ales are there, and the glass in that pub is astonishing.
I think we went there. I think we went there on one of Vic Norman's pub tours, didn't we, Steve? Is that one we ended up in? We ended up in the Badger's pub anyway.
It's literally just across from Westminster Bridge. You come across Westminster Bridge from the South Bank, and it's on your right-hand side, at the Houses of Parliament.
Is it kind of tucked down an alley or something?
No.
No,
but you can
go
to the back way.
The one you're thinking of is that one that's on two sides of the street.
Right.
Not that
yeah,
one.
Anyway, like I was saying, I've gotten used to the darker beers. This is not a patch on that Smog Rocket. The fact that I think this Smog Rocket is such an astonishing beer and the beer of the night for me, I think, shows that I've come to appreciate the darker beers finally.
I'd say.
But
still not a fan of black IPAs then.
It's all right. I'm just not a fan of heavily pined beers. I can't really get much.
I'm wondering if that's what it is. Whether it's not so much the fact that it's a black IPA, that it's just got that heavy hop in that you don't like.
Yeah, I don't like that piney hop smell, which is like that really American hop smell.
I think I might have put you off during the American season that we did.
Oh yeah, I had real
slightly
hop tiredness by the end of that season.
I mean, there is pine in the background. The pine is in the background of this, and if pine's not an element that you like in beer, then perhaps this isn't doing it for you. But as I say, my disclaimer was this is. It still is my favourite Beavertown beer. I just think this is. I'm a huge fan of black IPAs. I like
a black IPA.
I'm a big fan of good coffee. I like hoppy beers. I've got a bit of a sweet tooth, but I like good barbecued meat. I like the caramel on meat. And this is just perfection in a glass for me. I just think this is a stunning black IPA. It just works on every single level, from aroma, and it's got that. The finish is bitter, but it's bitter. It's dark chocolate.
Bittersweet. It's a bittersweet finish, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's interesting because you say about the black IPA, and you know you've got that, you've got the hoppiness in there of an IPA, but then you've got that kind of slightly roasted coffee sort of finish to it. The beer that you recommended a few weeks ago and that I was raving about, the Holy Cowbell India Stout, which is by Beavertown as well. Now that's almost a completely different beast, because what you've got is it's a stout, and it's undeniably a stout. But then you've got all these hops that are packed in it that give it that upfront punch of what you would expect from an IPA, but then it absolutely finishes as a stout. And I'm just wondering where you draw the line between an India Stout and a black IPA, because they're almost one and the same.
Well, you've got, even within that, you've got degrees because you've got beers that blur the lines between porter and IPA. You've got your aromatic IPAs. You've got, which is it's a very thin line whether that's another style again entirely. You've got these degrees. Now, do we have to be fit with labels? This is where the whole labelling thing comes in. Yes, I think to a degree you do need to differentiate, because if you look across these beers, by saying that's a porter, you can pick out characteristics of the porter. By picking out an IPA, you can pick out characteristics of the IPA, and the black IPA, again, differently. But the lines between the styles are blurred, and with the Indian beer. Now you think, well, hang on a minute, we've got this. What makes it? Is it a stout IPA? Is it an IPA stout? Where do you draw the line here? And the answer is you don't need to. Are you enjoying the beer? Can you put a label on it? Is it a label you're comfortable with? Is it a label other people are comfortable with? Why do we have to be so picky? And the answer is done. It's good beer. Yes, you do need degrees of separation, but the lines are blurred. And with everything now, brewers are trying to experiment. You need to get that edge. You need to find somewhere. You need to find your core range. You need to find somewhere that people will go, well, actually, this isn't a bad beer here. This is between this one and that one. But if you're writing it on a board in a pub, you want a point of reference. So you want your people that are going to like your stouts. You're going to want people you like your golden ales, your lagers. And so you need to have these degrees at some point. How you feel about that beer is entirely up to your palate. Which is why pubs that offer you a taster are the ideal pubs to drink in, because you can separate and where the bar staff have knowledge about the beer that's being served are the ideal pubs to drink in, because they will point you in the right direction and not be condescending. So, as you found, Mark, how did you feel when that person in the whippet said to you and just threw up their hand? Did they? I mean, it was literally, I haven't got a point of reference for this. They must have been able to point you in a direction. You need to be able to point someone in a direction.
Yeah, I think I had to revise what I was asking for after he rolled his eyes.
But you shouldn't have to. The person behind the bar should be able to say, well, actually, they should be familiar with beer styles, familiar with the beer itself. Not necessarily they can or have a frame of reference. So, I mean, be specific. Say, well, I quite like, for example, the night Berliner Weiss. Berliner Weiss is not a style that a lot of people have had. So, if you've not got a frame of reference for Berliner Weiss, you can't go for it. But if you have a range of beers that you like, at some point someone will go, I can pick up on that. What elements are in the beers that we've got? Which is important. It's important for bar staff to know what they've got on show. Yeah. So they know what the beers, and if you think about it, if lots of the good pubs, they will sit down with the staff at the start of the day and go through what they've got. And this is common practice in quite a few of the bigger pubs. I know Brewdog do it and Craft Beer do it. They will sit down, so they've got that familiarity with the beer. Now, they won't have tried everything that's on because they need to put something on, but they will have a point of reference. I mean, it's fortunate they have so many beers to choose from, but they have a point of reference that they can go from and they can work from. So, and that's the key to a good pub, which is where I segue nicely into Beer East Anglia.
Go on then. Have a plug.
Tell us about your new project.
I'll go in.
Yes.
It is. Basically, this has come about because we couldn't find. There wasn't a guide for Essex, Suffolk, that told me what I wanted to know about a pub. It didn't tell me. The good beer guide, by its very nature, is a good cask beer guide. It's the campaign for real ale. Because of what it is, it tells you what the real ale's like. Quite rightly so. That's what they champion. Is it good quality? Is it drinkable? Yes. Good beer. Thank you very much. Ticks the boxes. And then what comes around that is basically secondary. However, I think beer drinkers, and certainly more discerning beer drinkers, are looking for something different. Yes, you want good cask beer, and maybe you want one of those cask beers to be local. I think it's important to drink local because it's very naturally generally fresher. Cask beer is a fresh, live thing, and to have it fresh from a local supplier, as with lots of things, I think we're all conscious of this these days, is an important thing. But also, in addition to this, you might go, okay, I fancy a bottle of something different, or I've heard a lot about keg beer. Where do I get? Can I get a keg stout, or maybe I'd like a German pilsner or a German wheat beer, not necessarily from a bottle. How do I get that in the correct glass, where somewhere that somebody knows about what I might want? Could I chop and change between different styles? Now, the idea about the guy between Beer East Anglia is that I don't know if you're familiar with Boke and Bailey's blog, but there was nothing. They put something out there that said that had an area of beer guides for certain areas of the country. Pardon. And I thought, well, there's nothing in this area. There's not something that really relates to me. And I went up to Easter, and I called him for lunch at Ed's pub, the Swan. I know Steve's familiar with. And I said to Ed about this, and he said, well, I was having exactly the same idea. Why don't we do it together? So he's taken Suffolk in his area. I've taken Essex. And we've found some absolute gems. But we've also found that some pubs that were recommended are incredibly disappointing. It's quite, for the ups, and the ups are fantastic. I've come across some amazing pubs. The downs are blooming awful. Yeah, some of the good beer guide pubs. Whereas the cask beer is nice. You ask them about the beer and they really don't have a clue. And it's quite, I don't know, it drags at my soul that they don't know their beer. Yeah, but look at the beers we've drunk tonight. Wouldn't you like to have that array of beers on offer?
I'd like to be able to walk into any pub and to be able to say, I'll have a can of neck oil. I really would, because, or just more of a choice than what your standard taps give you when you walk into a pub. Generally, 7 or 8 out of 10 pubs that you walk into, you'll see Foster's, Carlin, Strongbow, Green King IPA, Guinness, and then you'll look at the cask handles and they'll maybe be like Old Speckled Hen, and you just think, I want more to that than my beer.
You say Foster's. One of the pubs I come across, and I'll pull this one out specifically because it's got a Foster's reference. The Queen's Head in Burnham Crouch, which is laid back from the sea pub, and it's he's taking Foster's off, so he's getting rid of Foster's off the keg, and he's putting on Paul and a Weiss beer because people are looking for that. They're coming in and nobody is drinking the Foster's. He has a good Belgian selection. He has some local beers. He has a local lager from Wibblers, which is an Essex brewery, and it's quite rare to see that on keg. And Dark Star is on the Dark Star run, that actually have a run along the Essex coast and visit some pubs there, some very good pubs on the Essex coast. And people aren't asking for the Fosters, so he's taking it off and he's putting this German Weiss beer on. And that lifts my heart that somebody is doing that. And these people, they need someone to say that they're doing that. But by its very nature, the Good Beer Guide won't report that. Because they're interested in the cask offerings. And yes, this pub is in the Good Beer Guide, but they're not. The reviewers aren't interested in what he's doing there. It's irrelevant almost to what he's doing. So people need to know that these are almost beer heroes and pioneers, bringing this to people that and areas that actually you might want to go, well, I'll go there and drink that because I can get beer here local to me maybe that I couldn't get otherwise. And that's why we're doing this Beer East Anglia thing, just to highlight these people that deserve the praise, because they've seen this tide and they're trying to ride this wave and get ahead of it and get these people and get people in. It's good for their business, it's good for them, and if more pubs did it, we'd all win. Plug over.
So, no, that's fine. Where can people find out more about Beer East Anglia, Justin?
We're nearly ready to go live. We've got quite a few pubs, surprisingly so. You can log on to Twitter at Beer East Anglia, all one word. So Beer East Anglia, all one word. So at Ed Razzle does it. You can link from me to at 1970s Boy. I quite often put things up on there, so I can log on to both accounts. But at Beer East Anglia, we're not live yet, but we plan to be going live very soon. Now I know you've got Ed on soon.
Yeah, it's on in a few weeks' time.
Yep, we should be live by then. So I'm sure Ed will push it as well. Just see what you think, and any feedback and any recommendations once you've got the gauge of the pubs for people living in Essex and Suffolk, please let us know. Now, it is Beer East Anglia, and we are aware that East Anglia is more than Essex and Suffolk. We know it encompasses Norfolk and Cambridgeshire and Lincolnshire. So we are getting there, but from tiny acorns to mighty oaks grow. So if you've got an idea and you've got a review of the pub and it's in our style, let us know if you're in those areas, and we'll just build from there. We want to give in this area. We've got London very close. People that love good beer, and it's an increasing number of people, need to know where they can drink it. And the people that have this good beer needs to get recognition, and that's the idea between Beer East Anglia.
Sounds like a great idea to me.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I'm biased at all, living in Essex, but I'd love to know where the best pubs are that I can go to. But yeah, we'll what we'll do is we'll link to that in the show notes, and we'll also make sure that we give Ed the 20 questions treatment when he's on in a few weeks' time as well.
Yeah, give him the third degree. I think so.
Yeah.
All right, lads, it's getting a bit late, so let's wrap this up. I think we've got something a little bit special to do now, haven't we?
Yes.
Are we still going for that? Are we?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's rude not to. I think we said it.
Let's get it over and done with.
I've already got mine here. I've already done it while we were talking there.
Right, so what am I doing?
Yeah, you just whatever you've got left of Gamma Ray and Black Betty, just pour them into the same glass.
Okay.
Because we're going to do
Oh my word.
do some almost live blending here. and straight away you're getting the aroma has almost been amplified by the addition of Gamma Ray to the Black Betty.
Wow. Oh, and I've got about a 10-finger head on my glass.
Brilliant.
This is an interesting
That's a good aroma on that, yeah.
That's not bad.
It's
smoothed
softened
out
the Black Betty a little bit,
exactly.
hasn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Smoothed out the Black Betty.
Let's give it a more rounded, orangey caramel edge, but it's still
Yes, yeah.
that darkness is still under there, but it's sort of giving it. I don't know, but I think in terms of texture sometimes when I'm thinking about flavour, but it's rounded off, giving it a more and colour as well. Sadly, sort of what a more dark amber hue, almost toffee.
Yes, yeah. It's like a toffee caramel sauce, almost.
Do you know what? If somebody poured me that, I'd drink it.
I would. I would.
Yeah, I'd probably leave it.
Is it too much on the erring on the black IPA side?
On the pine side, yeah.
Ah, right, yeah. See, I think it softens that pine.
It did initially, but now it's meh.
It accentuates the maltiness for me a little bit.
That was really just to use up the beers, wasn't it? So that we weren't really wasting anything. I know, Justin, your missus is probably desperately waiting for you to finish, so she can drain what you've left for her. But yeah, for me, it was a case of not leaving too much untouched. I think all of my cans are empty, and there's not very much liquid left around me, which is worrying considering that we record this on a Monday evening.
Well, considering I'm off to the White Horse tomorrow night to taste the lemon citron I brewed with Andy Parker and Martin Cornell. So that's good.
which will be in the past. When
it will be by the time you're in it. Will I be celebrating or commiserating on Twitter tomorrow night?
Yeah.
But there you go.
Keep track of Justin's Twitter account at 1970s boy, or you can find him at the hashtag that we gave him, some random bloke off Twitter.
I've taken it and used it as my own.
Okay, it's almost bedtime. Let's get this wrapped up.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Still got a bit more to do, mate. So
okay, go on.
I'm not completely through my list.
Right.
Well, we just need to do the Instagram of the week.
Oh yeah.
Which is always the highlight of shows these days. The prizeless prize that everybody it's becoming a very much sought after prizeless prize as well. So this week we've actually had lots of entries this week. There's been a lot of cans of Gamma Ray appearing on Instagram with the hashtag Cheers Guys. Justin himself has put in a couple of stunners this week as well. There was a lovely picture of a pint of Ghost Ship in an alcove in a pub. But I thought it'd be a bit wrong to give Justin this prize actually on the show this week. So you don't get it this week, mate. Sorry.
Which is fair enough.
I've come very close to giving the prize to myself this week as well, because I put in some absolutely fucking stunning pictures this week. There were a few that even blew me away, but again, I thought it was wrong to give myself the prize. So this week's winner, there was one picture that stood out among all the others this week, and this will already be up on our Instagram account, so you'll be able to see this. It was by a new entrant to the prizeless prize this week, at Clayfish, that's fish with two eyes, posted this picture of Neck Oil, one of the beers that we've drunk tonight. But it was just the picture, why it really caught me was it was the yellow of the can, it was the yellow in the glass against the pure white background, and it just really stood out. So, Clayfish, you're our Instagram of the week. You take the prizeless prize crown with your picture of neck oil. Well done, mate.
Hey.
And he's a bloody nice bloke as well.
He is a good bloke as well, yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
Good old
next. What's up next, mate?
Next, I'm just going down my list now. You're done, aren't you? Pretty much, yeah. It was just I'm up to. I've got two things left on my list, which is don't forget the interview at the end of the show with Logan. If you've not already had enough of us talking for nearly an hour and a half about Beavertown beers, listen to Logan talk for another 25 minutes, because the insight that he gives into the growth of Beavertown, where they've come from, what they're doing, where they want to go is absolutely fascinating. So check that out. And then the only thing that I've got left to say is next week we are recording our second birthday show. So we're 2 years old next week.
Aww.
So if anybody wants to tweet us a message to read out on the show, please do so. Better still, if anybody actually wants to record us a little snippet of themselves wishing us happy birthday, record it and send it to us, and I'll make Mark edit that into the show, which he'll love doing.
Oh, well.
What I'll do is I'll do it now at the end of the show, and then you just edit that in.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Yeah, we're 2 years old next week, and to celebrate, we're doing a special beer that Harvestoon put out earlier on this year. It's called Actually, and Mark's still convinced that it was a mistake, that somebody put Shihali on in a whiskey cask thinking it was something else. But we'll see next week on our birthday show.
Yay, Beer O'Clock Show, 2 years old. Old enough to talk, but young enough to still shit its pants.
Absolutely.
Right, what's next? Are we done?
No, I'm done with my list.
You can find us online at beeroclockshow.co.uk. The Twitter account is Beer O'Clock Show. On Untapped, you can find Steve at Beer O'Clock Show Steve, and me at Roku, ROKKU. And you can find us also on iTunes and Stitcher. Give us a review or a thumbs up. It really does help, and we appreciate your support. Don't forget to check out the Season 4 beer list on the website at beeroclockshow.co.uk, where you can get 10% discount codes from Honest Brew, Beer Boutique, and Ales by Mail. Look at that, I remembered all three of them. Amazing.
That's brilliant that you've done it.
You actually got you wrong. You didn't put your new Twitter account. You said at ROKKU.
That's
not ROKKU beer.
Roku is my Untapped account. ROKKU. My Twitter account is Roku Beer. Yeah.
It's all turned into a bit of a car crash at the end here. I think this was always going to happen.
5 beers. How was it going to end?
Yeah, it was always going to finish like this, wasn't it?
Oh, I've got work to do after this before bed.
Oh my word!
Yeah,
I've got to review the mutiny on the Beagle.
Right?
Have you not done that yet? Goodness.
No, not yet.
Anyway,
let's wait till after this.
Thanks very much, Justin. It's been great having you on the show, mate. We really appreciate you coming along.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed it. Cheers, guys.
And thank you to Beavertown for the beers. Very much appreciated. These have been such a stellar selection of beers. That Smog Rocket is going to go on my top 5, I think. That was astounding.
It's an amazing beer, the Smog Rocket for me.
Right, well that's it from me. Stephen, thank you very much. Until next week, bye-bye.
It's Beer O'Clock and welcome to the final instalment of our Season 4 Brewers of London series, and you could probably say we've saved the biggest till last.
This week we're joined by the owner and founder of Beavertown Brewery, Logan Plant. Welcome, Logan.
Hello, thank you for having me.
And as you know from listening to this week's show, this week has been all about the cans. We've been sampling the entire range of Beavertown cans on this week's show, so we're going to get straight into it with some questions about the cans.
Sure.
So, Logan, cans, why?
Simple, two things, stability and freshness. Yeah, I mean, my journey with cans was, I guess similar to everybody's perception of the kind of stigma between, I guess, canned beer, perhaps not being the best. Growing up, and you get into the culture of the kind of, I don't know, whatever it is, 6 for a $5 or Foster's and stuff, and it literally puts a bad taste in your mouth. But yeah, spending a little bit of time in the States, going to some amazing bars. A couple of years ago, I stumbled upon a can by a brewery called Surly from Minnesota, and it was the Furious IPA. And I remember being there with my little brother, who was about 19 at the time, and he was still drinking Heineken. And I was like, "Look, mate, let's get some beers down your neck." So I ordered about 9 different types of beers, ranging from lambics to massive imperial stouts to this canned IPA. And I'd never tried it myself, so I was like, let's give it a go. So I popped it, and I just got the most amazing sensation of hops that I've never come across, other than sticking my nose into a fermenter, And it was like, Jesus Christ, how's this happening? Really enjoyed the beer, and then just started on this mission of looking into cans and who else was doing it and why were they doing it. And what was it bringing to the table to our type of beer, and particularly our core range, which is very hop dominant. The Gamma Ray, the Neckall, the 8-Ball, the Black Betty. It's all about that dance between malt and hops, and the can, as I investigated, is the perfect form for containing and looking after what are very volatile substances. Hops, the alpha acids, the oils, the resins, they need containing, they need sheltering, and the can, the two things that beer doesn't like is oxygen and light, and the can obviously minimalizes the oxygen uptake and totally blocks out any light strike. Mm-hmm. So there you go, your beer is far more stable from the off, and therefore the freshness is banging, and I think that's that initial hit I got from Surly, was that freshness, it was that stability and freshness. So that was it. That was my conscious decision, and that was 2 years ago, pretty much just after I'd started brewing at Duke's Brew and Q. I wanted to go into cans, so it just took 18 months to get the ball rolling, I guess.
And as we sit here recording this right now, obviously on the show this evening, we've sampled your entire range of cans that are available, and we're sat here surrounded by the cans as we speak as well. Just talk me through each of the cans very quickly, and why and what each beer brings in a can.
Yeah, so again, just talking about that freshness and stability in the hops, and how volatile they are to oxygen and light. The Neckall, the new session IPA. Neckall was an old recipe that I've been banging around trying to recreate this beer where I'm from in the West Midlands, and it was just I could never get close to it. And as a brewer, that just does your head in. So I started again, and I wanted to create this real kind of stepping stone, a beer that we would drink at the brewery, at any moment in time, which is essential, for brewers. We can't all be drinking 7.4% or 8% throughout the day. So it was that session IPA, which is a term which I guess has been started to be battered around. But it is essentially a real crisp, very pale, hop-driven, big aromas, and again, perfect for the can. A train beer, an all-day beer, whatever you want to call it. Take it to the park, just sit on it all day. And then the Gamma Ray, 5.4% American Pale. This is the perfect beer for this, this dispense form. The can, it's massively rammed with late additions, huge dry hop. Again, it just keeps it locks it all in. The 8-Ball, the rye IPA, a little bit more malt driven with the crystal rye and the big dose of rye that we use. But again, it's all about the New Zealand hops in this, late additions again, dry hop. Again, it needs that care. Same with the Black Betty. Very much, you know, a black IPA, again driven by that dance between the kind of slight roast and the tropical characteristics of the hops. And then the Smog, yeah, it's a smoked porter, but again, it suits the beer. I mean, for me, you know, that's cool range. I think we're also looking to put the Kel Saison, 4% dry hop Saison in the can. Again, it suits the beer. To me, it's all about looking after the beer. And stylistically, yes, I'm not going to be putting barrel-aged beers into cans. I think, you know, a little bit of oxidation sometimes helps them, a little bit of cellaring. You know, it all depends on the form of the beer, but definitely anything that is dominated by those wonderful little hops, I think, deserves to be cared for.
Okay. And let's just talk a little bit about the artwork on these cans, because they're stunning. They really stand out, and you know, if you was to see that on the shelf, you'd be instantly attracted to it.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of background around the artwork. Where did the idea from that come from?
Yeah, it wasn't a conscious decision initially to change artwork. I absolutely loved the artwork we did with Jonah Schultz, a good friend of ours. But then looking at how, to me, looking at what the can was and what it offers as a pure form of artwork as well, and the gentleman we were working with, Nick Dwyer, who's our kind of creative dude, he had done a bunch of labels with us initially when I started the Alpha series, you know, pairing with local artists. And Nick used to work at Duke's, so I used to work with him every day, and he was bringing in his art, and I was just so enthralled by it. You know, it just resonated with me, you know, the kind of Day of the Dead stuff, the big colours, the boldness. Mm-hmm. And then I took the original Gamma Ray label he did about 2 years ago, and I just wrapped it around a blank can, and I was like, oh, that's it, you know. Who's not going to want to pick that up and have a look at it? You know, because to me it looks amazing. And we just took it from there, you know, and then we brought back the old Day of the Dead skeletons for Black Betty, and we went really psychedelic into like a kind of Burning Man crazy festival in the Nevada desert for the 8-Ball, which is very much where that beer, in my mind, originated, kind of like Americana kind of style. And then the neck oil shows all the team in Beavertown that have taken us from being in the kitchen at Duke's brewing once a week to where we are now, you know, at the new site in Tottenham Hale, brewing, you know, 30 barrel batches. So that's each individual member there as a little skeleton head. And then the Smog is harking back to the, you know, the kind of big smokestacks and World War II bombers and barrage balloons and stuff, and just harking back to London and its past and its history, which very much the Smog rocket, to me, again, represents. But yeah, it's all about stimulus. Mm-hmm. You know, you see them, you want to pick them up, read them, taste the beer. Yeah. That's it, really.
And you've mentioned a couple of times there about Duke's, which is essentially where Beavertown started. Do you want to just give us the history of where you started and how you got to where you are now at your new facility? Yeah,
Duke's. So basically, I'd always wanted to brew beer from about the age of 20, being obsessed with a couple of local breweries in the West Midlands. And the locality and the freshness, again, you know, they delivered to maybe 10 pubs, and I'd go to these pubs with my mates to drink specific beers. That's what stimulated me about you know, brewing and the community and the culture around it. You know, it really resonated, I guess, being out in the sticks and actually knowing the brewer and the brewery. Mm-hmm. And then just being I guess 10 years later, you know, that was more of a kind of a dream, I guess, and I had dreams of where I could start it, and possibly, you know, on a mountainside in the middle of Wales. And then I thought, bloody hell, who's going to drink the beer if I'm here? You know, it's an ideal place to brew, but where's the punter? And then going to the States with my old band, and eating some pulled pork in Brooklyn and drinking some amazing beer in the same place in an amazing environment just really slapped me around the face, and I just went, yeah, this is it. So I left the band within a week of getting back to the UK, and started formulating of finding a place, creating a traditional American barbecue joint, and I started home brewing to basically pair beers with the food type that we were going to serve. So the Smog Rocket, a smoked porter, goes great with the beef ribs. That was my intention of comparing that smoky molassesy kind of charriness to the smog, and then the 8-ball with that rye kind of dry spiciness of the rye itself was going to go great with the pork. So it was just simple, you know. I just kept it really simple to begin with and tried to nail the recipes and understand the ingredients and read and explore as much as I could on the internet. And then, yeah, I guess it was about 15 months later we opened the doors to Duke's, and I was brewing once a week in the cellar and serving it on cask and learning a hell of a lot, you know. And that was it really. And then started to bottle, I guess 2 or 3 months later, a little bit of wholesale out there. And then employed my first buddy, James, who's our lead brewer now. He came on in the June or July. And then we actually started to brew a pale ale. Prior to that, it was the Smog, the 8-ball, an old version of the Neckall that I was knocking out. But I was literally just trying to really dial in the recipes and get them, you know, to where I wanted them, I guess. I'd worked prior to that in a lot of events, managing events and the kind of production side, and then working with great chefs in and around London with food and, again, ingredients and recipes, and pairing that with great drinks, and not just, you know, wines, but some new beers that were coming out and stuff. But it was just the whole appreciation lifted, and I just found that I could really get my palate going from what I'd kind of been involved in for about 5 years, as well as the music. I was doing these events for cash flow. No money in music, to keep it going. So that's kind of where it all derived. And I think palate is key to everything that we've done, you know, that balance and that intricacy of hops, malt, yeast, infusions, you know, it's key.
So you fairly quickly outgrew the Duke's basement with your brewing, and moved on from there? Yeah,
I was doing 1 brew a week. I had 2 fermenters in the basement at Duke's. Then we moved to this little shed in de Beauvoir where I kept my fermenters. We bought another 2 second-hand fermenters so we could brew twice a week. That's when we started bottling and doing a bit of kegging. And then, then I think that was about a year. And then we moved to Hackney Wick, where we had 2,500 square feet on Fish Island. And that's where we started to crank the kit. We bought another couple of fermenters in. We fabricated a couple of old chutney vessels that we'd kind of got from Darkstar, and we refabricated them ourselves. And they worked great, and that gave us about 5 brews a week. And then we just kept on pushing it. Got a couple of doubles, a couple of 10s in, got up to 9 brews a week, and just started to get the name out there, you know, and tried to keep the quality and consistency as bang on as we could in what was a really manual environment, you know, gardening hoses and cellar cooling vessels and stuff. It was pretty hands-on, but I think we did a really good job. And then that took us into, what was that, March 2014. And then we behind the scenes I'd been, you know, finding a new site like up here in Tottenham Hale, which was great, and then raising finances through the banks and asset and everything that Duke's could possibly afford, because Duke's was going great, so we were just ploughing everything into the brewery. It's very much like robbing Peter to serve Paul, but it's worked, you know, and it's got us to this level now where we've invested in a canning line, we've invested in amazing fermenters and a great brew house and a bottling line as well. You know, it's been a great journey.
And you've got a tap house here at the new brewery as well. When can people come up here to sample the beers from that?
Yeah, the Beaver Tap Room is going to open on Saturdays. It's going to be 11 till 5, and we've got a big old space outside which we're actually sitting in now. About 4,000 square feet of yard. So we'll have a couple of food trucks up here. We're going to be working with some local producers. There's a great cheese guy up the road, Wilds. There's a great bakery and a charcuterie. There's some really talented local producers, and I think, again, you know, my vision about Duke's and Beavertown was all based around, well, honesty, but also community, you know, and a kind of culture. You know, whether you work at Duke's or Beavertown, it's, you know, you've all got the same mindset. It's all about giving the people the best, you know, the best experience. So that's what I want to do at the brewery. So we've got all sorts of games that we'll play, and yeah, we've got 10 taps, and there'll be obviously the cans, the bottles. We'll have rare barrel aged stuff that we're holding on to, that we can serve here. Growlers are coming in. Yeah, it'll be a great environment, and it's right by the river, 3 minutes from Tottenham Hale Victoria Line. Well, here it is. It's great.
It's great to see how quickly you've progressed and what you've progressed to. I'm quite interested in what's behind the name Beavertown, because it's quite a significant name in terms of some London history as well.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, yeah. It's not. It's got all sorts of connotations, I guess, which many people kind of raised an eyebrow when I said that I was going to call it Beavertown. They were like, "You serious?" It's like, yeah, you filthy devils. But no, it was Dukes, and Beavertown started in de Beauvoir town, and a friend of mine lived there, and he said, "Nah, East Londoners don't call it de Beauvoir, they call it Beavertown." So I was like, "That's a great name," and it really rung, it rung true. And we were searching for a name, and it suited, it's got that kind of Americana-ness to it and cheekiness, and we don't take ourselves seriously. So yeah, and I think it's just. It was, it's one of those, again, and one of those moments, it was like, yep, that's it, sealed.
And do you take a lot of your inspiration from America in terms of, the look and the packaging, the flavours that you use, the styles of beer that you're producing?
I think stylistically, yeah, initially as a young, as I say, when I was researching, I was looking into a lot of the breweries and the websites that were driven by, I guess, American homebrewers, they've been cranking it for the last 30 years maximally, so yeah, just the recipe and the intent of what they were doing and what they've pulled off, as a brewing nation now, and their craft brewing scene is huge, it's just growing massively. It's like 8% of the market now, and they wanted to get to 20% within, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, and they will, and that's because people want better, they want more, and it's up to guys like us to do that. It's like me as a consumer, when I go out, I want a great experience, and whether that's beer, food, music, sights, it's all about that, isn't it? So yeah, no, I think there was a big inspiration from America. Visually it's more about us and what we like. Nick, again, he's very much influenced by 1950s kind of comics, and I guess maybe that originates from the States somewhat. Day of the Dead, they're kind of Central America kind of stuff. But no, I think within our brewing techniques as well, we're driven a lot by yeasts now, and a lot of that comes over from Europe and Belgium, and really, I don't know, everybody's doing everything now, it's and as long as you do it, you consider what you're doing and you do it with conviction, then it's almost like a world. It's like a world market now, isn't it, stylistically? Yeah.
And brewing in London at the moment seems to have exploded and seems to be maybe reaching its peak. What does it mean to you and to Beavertown to be kind of part of that London brewing scene at the moment?
Massive, I think. I'm really, when I started looking into creating Beavertown, there was 11 breweries. The year before that there was 4. And you just look at that, and then the second year there was, well, when we opened we were the 22nd, and then the next year there was 40 odd, and now there's 73 or something. And that's within 2.5 years, and that's an amazing explosion. And of course, not everybody's doing the same thing, so that's great. That's great for the drinker. But there really is. Oh, here comes a big delivery. There really is a kind of brotherhood amongst everybody. It's all about. There's a good group of us that really want to push beer forward, and it's all about that, again, that consideration of end product and ingredient and how much you use and when you use it, and again the ethos and that culture behind what you're doing, and it's an amazing environment to be part of at the moment. And I don't know, everybody seems to be selling beer, so that's that's obviously good. There's a lot of new bars and restaurants and pubs opening, and they all want a great beer selection now, which is brilliant. I don't see what this whatever you might want to call it, this kind of surge, this revolution of new great beer, craft beer, or whatever you want to call it. I don't see it going away. It's not a fad. It's like wine. you know, back in the 80s, what was there? Liebfrau, Milch and Blue Nun. You know, now what is there? You've got everything under the sun coming in from every different country. You've got different price ranges of what you want to pay. It's the same with beer, you know. Long may it continue. And London, I feel, in the UK, I mean, obviously you've got great pockets everywhere, but it's an epicenter, you know, of brewing, of demographic, of drinker, and yeah, it's great.
So you've got your core range of beers,
Yeah.
and then you've got your Alpha series as well, which is your more experimental
Yeah.
sort of things.
Yeah.
Just tell us how that came about and what's next for the Alpha series.
The Alpha series was, I guess, just a form of expression, I think, because in, you know, every brewery kind of, again, looking at it, every brewery had their core range, but I was thinking, okay, well, you know, I'm really influenced by Dogfish Head and people like this, and they do a lot of crazy shit, and how can I tie this in? So to create something like an experimental range, I think is essential, massively essential for us. So yeah, when you know, even now that we've moved, we've taken our 4-barrel kit and we put it right next to the 30-barrel kit, and that 4-barrel kit's got 2 mini 10-barrel cylindrical conicals that are the same as the 60-barrel cylindricals that we've got. So we can now brew double brews into each of those from the small kit, and we can experiment to our heart's content. So there'll be experimental cans going out, obviously bottles, kegs. There'll be, you know, it'll allow us to individually barrel age stuff and really, again, dial in with everything that we want to be doing. And expression, you know. And I think, again, the drinker, as I was saying before, you know, it's there, you know, people want to be stimulated. So yeah, the Alpha series is going to keep growing. And also, I guess, allow us to hone our skills, continue, you know.
And you've obviously come from a background of homebrewing yourself.
Yeah.
What one piece of advice would you give to aspiring homebrewers?
I think don't be afraid, you know, and be very considerate about your recipe, and taste a lot, you know, eat your ingredients, you know, get to know them, and yeah, don't be afraid to try crazy stuff, you know, especially at homebrew level. You can't poison people.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing a pretty crazy job if you could, but you know, it's all about understanding, I think, and understanding ingredients. So the more that you can mess around, definitely go for it.
Okay. And so you've got the new brewery now, you've got the tap house, you've got the cans, you've got the Alpha series. What's next for Beavertown?
Settling in would be nice, catching our breath, and continuing to having fun, you know, continuing not to be limited, and, you know, the horizon never kind of ends for us as a brewery, and, you know, and to increase what I was saying about the kind of culture and the community, especially here in Tottenham. I'd love people to come and see what we do and why we do it and how we do it, and to communicate that would be great. So yeah, I don't think it ends, you know. I think we just keep on pushing and pushing ourselves and pushing the industry.
Okay. And where can people find out more about the things you do?
Well, our website, beavertownbrewery.com or .co.uk, is, you know, we've got a blog on there, we've got an Alpha blog. It's not been massively inputted because we've been up to our knees in all sorts of stuff, but that's going to come online quite heavily in the next couple of months. I really want the brewery to come alive for people who aren't here, you know, people who are, I don't know, you know, up north or in America or wherever, in Australia. They can actually look into the brewery, you know. So we'll be doing videos, we'll be doing, like, I don't know, meet the brewers, just get to know the people who work here, you know, bring the brewery to life. That's kind of my role now, you know. I absolutely love brewing, and we sit in and we devise a recipe, but for me now it's about getting out there and bringing the brewery to life.
And I just want to finish by thanking you for supplying the beers for this evening's show. We've enjoyed those.
It's a pleasure.
And also to thank you for your time in sitting down with us and recording this interview.
Anytime,
and,
guys. Anytime.
Good luck, and long may it continue.
Yeah, thanks.